Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Wednesday night live broadcast. Slightly late notice, I realise, and I do apologise for that. Just with being on the road, I kind of got a little bit confused with my nights, and I thought that tomorrow night was the night I was going to do the live, and then I realised that it needed to be tonight. Because as you may have read, voting for the Eucalypt of the Year closes tonight. So I really needed to put it out there to you this evening so that if you hadn't had a chance to vote, you could vote. But more importantly, there's an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about the eucalypts that have been nominated in this year's Eucalypt of the Year. Now, I'm joining you tonight. For those of you that may have seen my Insta Live a little while ago, I'm down in Goulburn, and we've been down here filming a few stories with Gardening Australia. And I just want to acknowledge that I'm on Gandangara. I'm on the land of the Gandangara people that covers all the way around Goulburn and the Wallandilly Shire, even up into the Southern Highlands. So I want to acknowledge this country that I'm on and the stories that we've been telling this week, which have been fantastic stories. And I really look forward to you being able to see particularly the story on the Goulburn wetlands, which we filmed today. So I'm here on Gandangara country. If you could let us know where you're joining us from, drop it into the comments there so we can see which country you're on and also which town, so people have an idea of what town and how that relates to First Nations country title. Brian Rao, welcome. Entries closed tonight for the Great Aussie Gum Leaf Hunt competition on nuts about gums. Fantastic. Well, I have a special guest who is definitely so Brian is down in Melbourne. Linda Baird, welcome, Linda. Thanks for joining us all the way from Naarm. Let us know where you're coming in from so we can acknowledge where you are. And I'm acknowledging that I have just smashed together a beautiful cup of tea and I'm enjoying that very much. So Stephen McKnight, Stevie, good to see you. Wadawurrung country out in Ballarat. Lovely to have you here, and I look forward to catching up with you and visiting your school when I'm next down on Wadawurrung country. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to our special guest tonight from Eucalypt Australia and also from Remember the Wild. So just while I've been saying that, we've got Elizabeth is joining us from Queensland on Mount Alfred on the Scenic Rim. And Trev Michelle, hello from Lily. Oh, hello, Lily. Lovely to see you, Lily. Catherine Moss has joined us from Geelong. Good to see you, Catherine. Welcome. And Sharon McIntosh, Dadara Yatmatong country, Mount Beauty. Oh, Sharon, I love Mount Beauty, and I was at the Mount Beauty Writers Festival late last year, and what a treat. I even got to go up in a hang glider above Mount Beauty. Oh, wasn't that a treat? But Counter Country, Adelaide Plains, good on you, Bronnie Jones. Great to have you with us. And Bronwyn Cavallo from Wurundjeri country in Melbourne. Lovely to have you here too, Bronwyn. Chris Sharman from Glen Innes. Good on you, Chris. So our special guest is Kathy Cavallo, and I'm going to bring her in. Kathy, how are you?
Good, Costa. I'm great. How are you?
I am particularly excited because we managed to get this together in my slight fog about days and realising that it was Wednesday as I was driving back to my room here in Goulburn going, oh, I meant to get this out there earlier. But look, thanks everyone for joining us and joining this chat that we're going to have. Kathy, tell us a little bit about
Oh no, Costa, have I lost you or have you lost me? There's a moment of terror.
Oh, hang on a sec.
Oh,
That
there
was a
you are.
moment of.
Woo!
Yeah, we're back. Um,
Woo!
tell us, tell us a little bit about Eucalypt Australia and the program, which specifically is about not just Eucalypt of the Year. It's Eucalyptus Day, and then we can go into a little bit about Remember the Wild too.
Yeah, sure. So, Eucalypt Australia is a philanthropic organisation that is dedicated to promoting the value of eucalypts in culture and through science and education. And they exist basically to fund and promote the knowledge and wonder of eucalypts, which are obviously one of Australia's, or really one of two of Australia's most dominant plant groups, I guess. We've got like the wattles, the acacias, and then we've got our eucalyptuses, eucalypts. And I think at the moment, taxonomy is always jumping around, but at last look, I think we've got about 840 species of eucalypt in Australia. And they're pretty much all just, yes, sorry, Costa?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
840. It's good for people to hear those stats.
Big number. And we, in that group, we have the eucalyptuses, which are like your river red gum and things like that. That's a huge number of species. Then we've also got the corymbias. So those are things like your red flowering gum or your ghost gum. And then there's a very small number that are in the genus Angophora. So a good example of that is the Sydney red gum, which actually won our Eucalypt of the Year last year. So those three genera make up that 840-ish species. And then there are a couple of other eucalyptus species that actually live outside Australia as well. But the majority of them, I think all but 4 are endemic to Australia. And so each year, Eucalypt Australia hosts this big campaign around eucalypts, focusing on National Eucalypt Day, which is the 23rd of March. That's this Saturday. And so we have a big festival of eucalypt events all across Australia. We put together a lot of educational and entertainment content on our social media. We reach out to the traditional media on radio and in written spaces. And then, of course, we have the Eucalypt of the Year as well. And this is the 7th year that we have been running this exciting competition. And really the purpose of Eucalypt of the Year, although it's a great opportunity for all us gum nuts to get out and just rave about our favourite species, the real purpose of it is to each year showcase a bunch of eucalypts that are maybe some of them are really well known, some of them might not be well known at all. This year, we're focusing on species that perform really well in urban environments. And so there's a big educational side to the Eucalypt of the Year, as well as the fun of a big public vote. And so I actually work as the social media manager for Eucalypt Australia, but that's through my role with Remember the Wild, which is Australia's first nature connection organisation. So we've been running the Eucalypt of the Year for the 7 years. We just love working with Eucalypt Australia. I think when I started working in this role for them, 7 or 8 years ago, I will admit to being a little plant blind. Like, I loved gum trees. I thought, gum trees, one big amorphous thing of just curved leaves, big tall trees. And over the years, I've just come to respect the incredible diversity and beauty and resilience of this group of trees. And now I am a complete gum nut.
I love the idea of a gum nut. Like, who was it right up the top there?
I think you're about to talk about Brian. And I have to give a special shout out to Brian, because Brian Rao is a really great friend of Eucalypt Australia, and he runs the incredibly popular Nuts About Gums Facebook group. Yeah, so he's been a
Look,
big supporter of Eucalypt Australia, long time. He really knows his ukes, and this year we're helping Nuts About Gums to run this big, awesome gum leaf, competition to try and find the biggest, the longest, and the weirdest gum leaves across Australia. So we
really?
definitely, yeah, it's a really fun competition because there used to be. It used to be a bit of a fun thing that people might do, it's at country fetes and things, especially in, blue gum country or places like that where you get some of those big 45, 50 centimetre long leaves. But Brian's done a great thing here in widening that out to not just the longest leaf, but also, the broadest leaf and the weirdest leaf, which means that anyone across Australia can take part, because up in the tropical savanna, we've got some of the eucalypts with the widest leaves. So I can't quite remember how wide some of them are, but the poplar gum and the swamp bloodwood, like I've definitely seen leaves, like that wide, not that long, but that wide. So
Wow. Yeah.
if you've got one kicking around, I guess WA's got a few hours of sunlight left to go out and look, but otherwise, if you've got one framed in your house, measure it up and jump on Nuts About Gums and see if you can enter it in.
So nuts. Oh, so, okay. Now,
Yeah, they're on a Facebook group.
yeah. Sorry, Brian. I didn't fully understand that. I thought it might have been a few typos because I was going Aussie gum leaf hunt. Because I was thinking I'm nuts about gums. I didn't realize that was on Nuts About Gums.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If someone can find that and put the link up onto the comments for Nuts About Gums. So is that a website?
Nuts About Gums is a Facebook page.
Facebook page. Okay.
But I think
let's
you
get
can
a copy of
also,
that.
yeah, Brian will probably pop that in there, but I think you can also access the competition stuff on the eucalyptaustralia.org.au page under our events.
Okay.
Because it's listed as one of the National Eucalypt Day events this year.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, Brian, I'm gonna check that out, and I'll share it. I'll share that on my page and get people excited about it. And I love that, Kathy. Like, this is how we bring people in to really open their eyes with a new vision onto these incredible trees. Like, they are amazing, and they get hammered in different ways because a branch drops and falls on a car, or very sadly branches have killed people, which is not good, and of course fires and things like that. But they get a rough run when you think about the fact that there is so many millions of these trees around us. And
that's right.
Anything like a competition like Nuts About Gums or Eucalypt of the Year, it makes people realize that for those unfortunate aspects, there's a lot more that we need to know and can learn and can appreciate, and the artistic beauty of these trees is just second to none anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I think that they suffer a bit. Our relationship with eucalypt suffers a bit from our familiarity with them, because we all have this idea of the eucalypt as this big, tall, messy gum tree with, maybe gum nut babies, long curved leaves, koalas, blah, blah, blah. But really, if you take a moment, or if you follow Eucalypt Australia, because we love sharing this kind of information, you'll find out that across that 840 odd species, the diversity is insane. You have things that grow in Tasmania no taller than 30 centimetres tall. And then you've got obviously the towering mountain ash forests and karri forests and things. And you also have a broad range of tree shapes and things and suitabilities for different purposes. So that's why this year we are really focusing on eucalypts in our urban environment, because they are getting hammered. There's really pervasive myths around how dangerous they might be or how big or messy they are. But when you look at the statistics around the world and you look at the statistics of things that endanger or worry us in our lives, it's such a vanishingly small thing. I guess you could compare it pretty easily to the fear we have around shark attacks, but obviously there are so many sharks swimming around every day. and it's very rare, for anyone to be bothered by one. So what we're really trying to show this year is the huge value of eucalypts in our urban environments. They are not all big, messy, dangerous things. There's a huge diversity of shapes, and even with the taller or larger gums, they're not any more dangerous than other trees of their size. And the one thing that we tend to forget is that a tree, trees, if so what I'm trying to say is, I guess, that trees do need maintenance. If you plant a tree and prune it while it's young, and plant the right tree for the right place, then throughout its life you maintain that tree. And I think that, in the same ways that we maintain our lawns and our gardens, yeah. So trees don't necessarily have to be dangerous, and eucalypts are no more dangerous than other big Australian trees or foreign trees.
When you sit down and decide what the theme is for a year, have you pondered this and sort of written up a few years of themes, or do you get together with everyone there at Eucalypt Australia and Remember the Wild and say, yeah, okay, what are you thinking? What's our theme? Like what brought because I love this year's theme. I think it's an incredibly valuable one and an important one. And, I've just spent a day in the wetlands here in Goulburn, and, with people from, incredible individuals from the Australian Plant Society. And they're planting Australian native plants there with the labels and things so that people can see how they grow and get to know them and start to grow them. And they have eucalypts here, the yellow box, which this country was predominantly yellow box, and a couple of other varieties. And you can see them and look at them. And, I was blown away because today I went back and I saw, so in 2016, I came down and I planted trees with the land care group. They're called frogs, friends of the Goulburn swamplands. And awesome. They had the children from East Goulburn Primary School come, and we planted some of these yellow box, and that was 8 years ago. And now I was standing there next to these trees, and there's a whole lot of acacia decurrens, which they planted as the nitrogen fixers. So they're probably only going to last another, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe. If they reach between 10 and 15, you're doing well. But they're fixing all that nitrogen, and then they'll fall down, but their roots will hold the ground, and then they can start to underplant. So I just love it that each area has such wonderfully specific plants. But then on that same note, as someone said earlier on, Splendor in the Garden said, we're cheering for our West Australian eucalypts. Like planting some of those West Australian eucs that don't necessarily grow so big as features and as elements, like a corymbia, a beautiful small flowering corymbia. Like, there is a world of eucalypts out there, and that's why I'm really happy about this year's title. But how did it come about?
Well, I guess the board of Eucalypt Australia has this brief that is to, raise awareness for eucalypts, and a big part of that is focusing on the big threats to eucs and finding different ways to engage people with them. And, some of the big topics we kind of deal with are tree hollows as homes, paddock eucalypts, things like that. And this year, I think it's just the right year to do urban eucalypts, because we are seeing the excitement about the urban forest take off more and more, which is really exciting, and talking about, the different values in terms of cooling our neighbourhoods and shading and bringing biodiversity. We're seeing people really get around the urban forest. But at the same time, we're getting more and more kind of sensationalist stories about eucalypts in urban environments. And we are having the sad reality that with our more extreme weather events, we are having a lot of these older eucalypts that have been a part of our communities for such a long time. We are having some of them fall over in these kind of unprecedented events. So I've been amazed this year to see just how many times eucalypts have been in the news in good and bad light. And at the same time, I've also seen really interesting uptick in how much local councils are talking favourably and protectively about their eucalypts and their big old trees and how they are assessing them and caring for them, rather than perhaps in the past when we might say, oh, that tree's a bit close to something, take it down. I saw a really good post today, I think, from the city of Casey about a tree that someone had been concerned about, and the arborist went out, checked it out, and they wrote the full report of what that tree needed and posted that for the whole community to see, and then, did some remediation. And they said that, this tree will now get 6 monthly checkups. So instead of losing an important habitat tree in town, that tree is now being protected long term and being looked after to make sure that it's in its best health. And we did also see a really good paper come out this story in the conversation come out this week about the huge number of the value of the structural complexity of our big eucalypts in terms of the types of branches that birds need to use, and how you just can't replace, if you bring down a big old eucalypt, you can't replace it with a sapling. And I think more and more people are coming on board with that. But we do also need to address the, understandable fear that people might have around, big trees or things, if they've been told in the past these myths around eucalypts.
Oh,
so
gee,
education's key.
Yeah, that's great. I just love what you were talking about there. And as you were chatting, there's been some great comments come in. This one from Yvonne Jones, love eucalypts in Tassie, Devonport, doing an online art class on Saturday for eucalyptus. Beautiful shape. I love to look up and see the twists or the colour, the layers of bark, the clumps of leaves, colour, life, smell, the burst of life after being scorched. Love these incredible trees. Like, that's, thank you, Yvonne, for sharing that. Like, that's really what everything Kathy and Eucalypt Australia and Remember the Wild, and that's what we're all about. Like, people seeing that passion, getting that passion in, and Rick Coleman, snow gums. Oh, I mean, is there? I love snow gums. They are just amazing trees, and yes, they are. There's some big challenges facing them if we get climate creep, and then. This is a cracking Bromwell Cavallo, Andrew Cavallo. We just had our urban street planted with a new gum that I wasn't aware of, and I was a bit disappointed with. Then, as it grew over the last year, the number and shape of leaves and flowers has been so amazing. I'm thrilled that I have been introduced to a new urban species, and Angophora hispida. Yeah,
that's a cracker.
It is. Because even just the way the leaves are arranged on the stem, like Bromwell, that's sensational that you have sort of been introduced to something new and you can now champion it.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is putting labels on trees and making sure that when new council plantings go in, there's a little bit of information there about how big it's going to grow, who it is, what's its name, what's it going to look like, because that's how we do introduce species, new species to people. And I have to say, I've recently got onto the Angophora hispida and I'm obsessed. I planted one in the front garden a couple of weeks ago. It is gorgeous. And I think on that note, should I maybe show you the trees for this year, because the dwarf apple is one of them.
Let's go through it. Brian just said, just before you do, Brian said, I tried to get Eucalyptus recurva up as Euca the Year 2 years ago, the rarest of all gums. Thanks for sharing that. And then Sean Bailey.
Brian,
go on.
Sorry. No, you go.
Yeah, stay on, Brian.
Oh, I was just going to say, Brian brings up a good point as well about our eucalypts. So that Mongalo mallee, that's the Eucalyptus recurva, there's only like one or two or three trees of it left, and something like estimated at 5,000 or something years old. Across Australia, because our eucalypts are so ancient, there's been this huge local speciation that means that although we have so many different types of eucalypts, most of them only live in a tiny little area. And when we look at our eucalypt species for the year this year, a couple of them we feature from Western Australia. They are much more widely planted in suburbia than they exist in their wild habitats. So that means that our eucs are at real danger from habitat clearing and climate change, because often their populations, they can just be a few kilometres wide, some of these populations. So they're really at threat from, chance events like one big fire or one industrial or, residential clearing.
Or an invasive, it could be anything, like the myrtle rust or
that's right,
phytophthora, all of these things,
small areas,
and they're just chipping away at it. It doesn't get. It's a very dry season, then it gets myrtle rust. All of these things. They just and they're old trees that can only take so much. Like, what was the age that you mentioned then of some?
Well, of them? It's a real estimate, but I think now I'll have to look it up. Maybe I'll flick it to you at some point. But that's a species that the federal government's working on, and I think because it's a mallee, it just kept dying back every time. But its rootstock, its mallee rootstock, is in the thousands and thousands of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like we have these ancient horticultural
marvels.
These are I'm trying to think of the word. Like they're like items of international significance.
Yeah.
And yet, we drop a chain through it and say it's scrub.
Mm-hmm.
There's some tree, the big red gum in the US that's only 500 years old, and everyone goes, this is iconic and blah, blah, blah. Yet we put the cat through that and drag the chain through it and go, mate, there's nothing to see here. Like, so all of this is so important for people to hear this. Sean Bailey, just before we go into the things, gotta love eucalypts. We have red and blue bark and some iron bark growing on our property. That's a privilege, Sean. What a treat. So look, let's go into the 10. Talk
sure. And did you want to see a couple of pictures of them? I can. Not sure
definitely.
How to present, really. Let's see.
Hello, Karen. Hello, Joe Martin. G'day, Linda.
I'm going to share screen, and it's going to let me do it. Oh, I do know how to do things. Can we see?
Yep. There we go.
There we go.
Hey.
So probably a few of you have met our champions this year, but I'm thrilled to be able to talk about them anyway. We obviously had a lot of trouble reducing 840 species down to 10 to feature this year.
Come on. That's an easy
I always feel happy that I don't have to vote each year, because I can't, because I see the votes. But what I do have to do is put the list together at the start, and it's agony. It's pure agony. So we've chosen trees that are really high performers in urban environments. Obviously, it's all about the right tree for the right place. So they don't all necessarily work in all across Australia. But I'll introduce them to you. So we've got the dwarf apple that we were just talking about. Now, it's a really little tree from the Sydney sandstone and Illawarra country. Incredible little thing. It really grows into more of a shrub, or, you can see in the picture there is a small tree. I'm hoping mine will grow into a little tree, but you can maintain it as a shrub. And it grows these masses of huge white fluffy blossoms that are really insect attracting, which is great for our little birds. But it also has this amazing feature that its new leaves and its fruit and buds and things, they have these tiny little red bristles on them, which is really not that common among eucalypts. That's a cracker of a species, and I am seeing it planted more and more in as a street tree because it's quite small. So then we've got the ghost gum, which is simply iconic. Personally, growing up, I grew up in Melbourne. I now live in central Victoria on Dja Dja Wurrung country, and I guess I'd never seen thought about the ghost gum as being something you could have in urban environments. But of course, if you go to Alice Springs or any more arid regions around Australia, they make phenomenal, really beautiful street trees. Nice, fairly straight trunk, beautiful wiggly branches, pure white against that blue sky, red dirt. Just phenomenal.
And I mean, imagine creating the right conditions for those to be feature trees in urban environments, be it
right.
street trees or park trees
Mm-hmm.
or trees in the context of a public building where they're installed correctly, and then perhaps with a little bit of underlighting at night. That's where we build plant passion.
They're just incredibly Australian. You can't get really a more iconic Australian scene than that beautiful white trunk against the blue and red. So we put that in there as one of our bigger trees, but I've actually seen ghost gums only about that high growing on top of growing in Central Australia on cliff tops. So they are a very adaptable species that grows to its conditions. So you obviously get the super big ones and the little ones too. This one, the red flowering gum, big favourite of many people. I've got my special, gum nuts here.
Oh, yeah.
It has been having a phenomenal flowering season. So every few years we just get this incredible flowering of the red flowering gum. Now it's endemic to the southwest coast of WA and the south coast of WA. But it's one of our most widely planted eucalypts across Australia because it has this beautiful kind of consistent tree form, thick, beautiful dense canopy, dark leaves, and then fig-like leaves, and then these stunning flowers. And it's also one of the ones that's been most successfully developed in horticulture. We've got a lot of beautiful dwarf cultivars. We've got grafts onto rootstock from the East Coast, which means that it grows well in more humid and eastern environments. I think anybody who's been in a southern Australian urban environment over this summer will have seen these in flower. And the natural colour in the wild is always this kind of vermilion orange red, but by crossing with the Marri, which is another West Australian Corymbia, we've got pinkish ones and white ones, and then with the swamp bloodwood from Queensland and Northern Territory, we've got these incredible pink ones too, bright, like a really heavy pink. So that's a real favourite of many people and gets a lot of people talking every year. And then right next to that is the Silver Princess, which is another one of those incredible Western Australian endemics that comes from a tiny, tiny pocket of granite country in WA, but is so widely planted across southern Australia. It's probably the most common one you'll see in front yards in Northcote in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great little habitat plant for smaller gardens and things because it's got that more spindly, graceful form, really open habit, which lets a lot of light in. It's non-competitive, great for underplanting, and the birds love it. And there's, kind of, I guess, a note on these brightly coloured ones is that they are more attractive to all your honey eaters, but also your big honey eaters. So when you're planting these ukes, I guess if you want to be planting more for the smaller birds, then you want to focus on things that will attract insects. A lot of Eastern Australia's eucalypts have little tiny white flowers, and they're really good for attracting in the insects that might bring in your smaller native birds, whereas I know that lorikeets and big wattlebirds and things just are obsessed with red flowering gum and silver princess. So it's good to think about the context of what you want when you're planting these different trees in your garden.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really great advice, because if you do have those, then it's incumbent to make sure you get your understory planted with lots of flowering plants so that the small birds have that protection and can get in there underneath, which is what we were looking at the Goulburn wetlands today.
Cool.
Just before you go into the next tree, I just like this comment from Richard. Thanks, Richard Ackland. Discussions like this help stop the fear of trees. We have a guided walk for Forest Day at the Coffs Botanic Gardens
Cool.
tomorrow. Some nice old eucalypts to be seen on this walk. And yeah, thanks, Richard. It's exactly what Kathy and I kind of tapped into before we started and have tapped into during the discussion, that this is about just breaking down hearsay and status quo that's just been built up from, not necessarily facts, but also hype and fear. And we do need to break that down, and we do need to look at, the changes, and that we can have smaller trees, to smaller eucalypts, to provide that canopy and that all of those passive cooling elements without, this idea that, you just can't have eucalypts because they're too big.
Yeah. And this is a great point also to talk about the shade values and the huge diversity amongst the eucalypts, because, you might think that because a lot of eucalypts hang their leaves down, a lot of people think they don't provide any shade. But here on this page, we've got two examples on the far extreme. We've got the red flowering gum, which has a really thick, dense, shady crown that's really, really cooling and shady. And then you've got the silver princess that's super open. So it kind of, these two trees together show the diversity in terms of form and function and utility in our urban environments for a whole range of different purposes.
Big thanks there to the Queensland Beekeepers Association for sharing the live stream. Really appreciate it, because I was talking to a little boy in the Ceres, at the Ceres Environment Park Nursery, who said how he was going to be getting bees. He was only in primary school, and I said, well, if you're going to have bees, you've got obligations and duties to be planting flowering plants to help feed those bees. And, beekeepers, you're a big part of getting this message out, because one of those eucalypts that Kathy was talking about in a street can provide as many flowers as 3 gardens.
It's incredible.
Let alone a street a street of those trees, like what it can provide for our valuable, insect, the importance of insects. So thanks heaps for sharing it, Queensland Beekeepers. I appreciate it.
Of course, we all know that pretty much all the best honeys come from eucalypts, like ironbark honey, red gum honey. Definitely have a vote for those. Apiarists are always pretty keen on the ukes. Okay, so what's our next one? We've got the Argyle apple. Now, this is another beautiful, more insect-attracting species. I recently saw it I saw a lot of it in the wild when I was up in Canberra, which was such a thrill, because it is one we see often planted in suburbs, and I just get really jazzed when I see these species out in the wild. So this is a beautiful larger tree, or middle-sized tree with a dense silvery canopy. It's also in the floristry industry called the silver dollar tree. So it's really popular in floral arrangements. It has this beautiful kind of dark reddy brown stringy bark, and it is also called the mealy stringy bark. And we've been telling people in Canberra to vote for this one, because this is probably the key one on the list that grows naturally in the Canberra area. But it does also get down into Beechworth and up into the tablelands of New South Wales as well. Then I probably shouldn't say that I've got favourites, but the yellow gum is... I just think this is one of the greatest trees. It is something that our parrots are obsessed with. So you can never be unhappy when you're standing with a yellow gum, because it's always full of raucous lorikeets, and swift parrots love it too. All of our different blossom nectivorous parrots, get into our yellow gums. It's actually quite closely related to the ironbark, so it's a very similar flower structure. That they've kind of co-evolved with our lorikeets that have that brush tongue, so that they can get into those big flowers. And up here in Castlemaine, we've got avenues of yellow gum and red ironbark. And in winter, the winter flowering of those species is so much fun. It's just lorikeet chaos, absolute chaos. And the great thing about the yellow gum, Yeah, totally. Is it's also called the South Australian blue gum, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 subspecies of this species across its range throughout New South Wales, South Australia, and Victoria. And that means that there's locally adapted species and different forms that suit different urban environments and suit different climatic conditions. So it's a really versatile tree in urban environments. There's a lot of smaller varieties that people are planting now. And yeah, they just get completely covered in these bright pink or white or red or yellow flowers in winter. And I think anything that flowers in winter is pretty special. Who else have we got? Oh, this is a good one. So the
Yeah.
Risdon peppermint, that's these are talking about species with a really small range that are threatened in today's environment. The Risdon peppermint is endemic to Tassie. It's actually endemic to just this tiny little area in Hobart. It's named after the suburb it was found in. So Risdon and Risdon Vale in Hobart. This species was found there, and it pretty much only lives there. So the growing suburb of Risdon and Risdon Vale has to be really careful not to completely encroach on the remaining habitat for this species. But it also presents something for the locals to really get around in terms of this is our tree. And I love that about really localized species like the Risdon peppermint or the Camden white gum, is that where they completely overlap with community, it's a real opportunity for people to bond with and develop a sense of custodianship for those trees. And this is another small silver-leaved one, and it's gorgeous, really pretty.
Oh, that's exactly it. Like we have these species. People are living on country that has such an incredible local horticulture.
Yeah.
Yet they're lucky if most wouldn't even know about it, and even if they lived in a street with that name of Yellow Box Road, they'd probably, for a lot of people, they'd think that it was named after a yellow cardboard box, not an actual tree. And I don't mean that as a criticism. It's just, we've railroaded too much of that significant regional and local aspects of our horticulture, and this work that you do with a project like this, and picking 10 of them out, like that's the best way to build a relationship. Like if you just say, oh, pick anyone from 800, like that's kind of just, then that just becomes amongst people that know something about their local species, and they're going to vote for it because it's Tasmanian, or they're going to vote for it because it's the one that they know. But this, I just love hearing you talk about them because it gives it context.
Yeah, I just love them. And I think, the more that we talk about these individual species, the more there's demand for them in horticulture as well.
Yeah.
So I know that you can, in Tassie now, you can buy the Risdon peppermint. So you could be a part, if you're in that part of Hobart, you can be a part of continuing this species survival in the wild, because if you've got 1 or 2 trees on your property and they're close enough to the other ones, then they're continuing that genetic population and providing stock long term. And so actually planting eucalypts in our backyard, particularly where we choose indigenous species, can actually be really important for species conservation.
Look at that. Well, there's Genevieve Lawler.
Cool.
She's planted one. So she's part of the solution already.
That is awesome, Genevieve. That's so cool. This next one is another cracking tree. It's a Western Australian one from a very small area of WA, but it is really widely planted across Southern Australia as well. It's called the coral gum. It is given that name because it's got these incredible orange and pink blossoms, and orange and quite often red as well buds, and the name Torquata, I think that means adorned with now I can't remember, but it essentially refers to the incredible buds having this little ribbing. It's really ornate, really, really beautiful. And a lot of our gum nuts and gum buds are really fascinating to look up up close. This is another
Yeah.
tree that provides a lot of dense shade and is really, really popular with our parrots and our larger honeyeaters. And yeah, I used to live in Adelaide on Kaurna country, and although this species isn't natural in Adelaide, it is really widely planted because it's a similar climate to where it grows in the wild, and it just made me so happy for the 2 years I lived there because it's just an incredibly cheerful tree, really bright and colourful.
Yeah, yeah.
What else have we got? So these might be the last two. I can't count, but I think we're on the 5th page. Here we've got the heart-leaved mallee, and it is an extremely cute tree. If you are thinking of growing a eucalypt in a pot, then this is the species for you. That said, lots and lots of eucalypts do very well in pots, but this is possibly the most perfect one for pots. It is a little shrub to a small tree. In the wild, it goes from 1.5 to 3 meters. It's got this nice kind of loose crown, beautiful mini Ritchie bark. So that's a bark that's unique to just a few of our eucalypts and a few of our acacias. And what it means is it curls kind of, oh, you'll have to look it up, mini Ritchie, but it's this red cracking bark that curls into little like paper-like curls, and it's just stunning. The silver princess carries that bark as well. And it also carries, not all of them, but a lot of them have these little heart-shaped leaves, which are extremely
That's amazing.
cute.
Look at them.
It's so cute.
That's crazy.
Plus little cream blossoms and red stems. So it's really gorgeous. Very worth trying in a container.
Richard.
Yeah, it would be a great bonsai.
Yeah. Good stuff, Richard. Give it a crack.
Yeah. I actually went to the Victorian bonsai exhibition, Victorian native bonsai exhibition last Friday, and there were some incredible ukes on display. And then this final tree we've got is the lemon-flowered gum. I have also just planted this in my yard. The trees chosen aren't ones that I necessarily loved. It's just that I've fallen in love with them, and now they're all in my garden. But the lemon-flowered gum is another open, spreading, smaller tree. It's got these weeping leaves, bright lemon yellow blossoms, and silver red bark. It's another WA species. So I don't know. I'm just glad I don't have to vote. I don't know how anyone else votes, but please do vote, and vote by midnight tonight. Because yeah, we really want to know what Australia thinks should be the tree, the Eucalypt of the year out of this group of, that is all 10 of them, out of this group of incredible species.
Wow. So what do you think, everyone? Hopefully each of you watching can jump on now to the link that we shared just there, and maybe let me see if I can dig up that link and put it in the comments. But yeah, jump on there tonight before midnight. You've still got, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. And Brian has said that so where do we vote, Luke? I'm just trying to think if I can grab hold of the link off a page. Have you got the link there that you can put in the comments?
I
Kathy?
can put it in your. Oops, sorry. I'll stop
put
sharing
in the
my
private
screen.
chat.
Stop screen.
Okay,
Otherwise, I might accidentally show you the votes, which we don't want. What I will say about the votes is that it is extremely tight right now. We've had two leading contenders, and they. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this link, but my computer's not behaving. They are like. Today they've been split by 1 vote, then one of them leapt ahead and was 20 votes ahead. Then it's been back to 7 votes. I honestly don't know which one of them is going to win.
Here we go, Cheryl. I think Cheryl might have. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. I've just chucked it in our chat as well.
In our chat, okay. And I'll put it up on the.
I'm just trying to see how many votes.
We'll see.
So 20 votes currently split first and second place.
Wow, that's not much.
That's not much. And I can also see which state people are voting from. And at the moment, the majority of votes have come in from Victoria, Western Australia, and from New South Wales as well. We're having trouble reaching the Northern Territory. So if you've got any mates in the Northern Territory, only 7 of them have voted so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But there's been some good push behind the ghost gum. So I imagine some of those must be from there. But yeah, if you've got mates in the Northern Territory, let them know about it. Because yeah, they've got to be able to have their say.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just trying to see if there's any other comments coming. Hey, Kathy, we'd love to catch up with you. Can you shoot our State Secretary Joe Martin an email when you get a moment?
Ooh,
that's the
that
Queensland Beekeepers.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And Emu Valley Rhododendron have come through with a serious question. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah. Oh no, I have tried.
You play the gum leaf.
No, that is a skill that I don't possess. But I have heard a few quite skilled people play the gum leaf, and it's very impressive. Can you, whoever the person behind Emu Valley Rhododendron?
Emu Valley, yeah. Come out from behind that rhododendron and play your gum leaf.
I think that takes practice that I don't have the patience for.
Oh wow! Well, look, seriously, what a fantastic chat. We'd love you to come and visit to find out. So we've got whereabouts is Emu Valley Rhododendron Garden? Yeah, look, Kathy, fantastic conversation. I have just had such a good time this evening.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Like really, where was it? Burnie, northwest coast of Tassie.
Oh.
Well, I'll have to bring you a Eucalyptus risdonii to plant in amongst the rhododendrons. So that we can back the Tassie one this year. Yeah. Now, actually, speaking of, I have to get on and vote after I end this live because and I'm going to have to think about it. But seriously, I've really enjoyed hearing about the different species and just getting that background on Eucalypt Australia and Remember the Wild and how I think this is it's such an important annual way for us to connect and show respect to these incredible inhabitants that have been here long before any of us.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for having me on, and hopefully we'll be able to get together on Saturday when we can announce the big winner.
Oh yeah, so everyone, we're going to do a live on Saturday morning, and I'm going to see if I can get this to sync up with my Insta so we can do, because I know that I can do StreamYard and bring Insta on too. So if I can do that, then it'll go out to Insta and Facebook, and we'll do what a privilege that you've given me to be part of the official announcement of which one wins. So keep an eye out, everyone. I'll put some posts up on Friday evening with the launch time. Kathy and I will work that out.
Yep, and we'll also be joined by Eucalypt Australia's CEO, Linda Baird. She'll help you with the official announcement, and I'll just wax lyrical about how much I love it.
Yeah, well, Linda can have the privilege and just call it. Linda, there's Linda. Linda is there. There she is. Linda Baird. See you on Saturday. That's great.
But if anybody wants to, obviously vote tonight, that would be incredible. But we'd also love for you to join in with the rest of our National Eucalypt Day celebrations. So there are some events happening across Australia. If you head to eucalyptaustralia.org.au, that's where you'll find the events that are on. If you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you'll be able to learn and share your stories about eucalypts across Australia. And also, every year we really love, if on National Eucalypt Day this Saturday, if everyone can share a photo and a story, or just a photo of a tree that they love, with our Love a Gum campaign. This year it's focusing on urban trees, so we would be so stoked if you could share like a photo of one of the eucalypts in your street or in your garden, or anything. When we say urban, we don't mean it has to be cities. We're really just talking about neighborhood ukes. So I'll be sharing eucalypts from my town in Central Australia, and yeah, we would love to see your stories. So just tag #loveagum_urban. But if you follow us on social media, you'll see all about that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm chuffed. I'll sleep well tonight. I'll sleep very well.
Thank you
what a great
so
way to
much.
spend the evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Costa. It was great fun.
We'll share some gum leaf playing. We'll share some gum leaf.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you, Emu Valley. Yeah, well, look, thanks everyone. What a wonderful evening. Thanks. I can see lots of people are still with us. Thank you for being part of it. And yeah, what a treat. I have a 500-year-old habitat tree in the garden.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Richard, for your contributions tonight, and to everyone for the comments. If you get a chance before you flick off, share this out there so that we might get a few more people between now and midnight jump on and share that and have a vote as well. So yeah, have a good evening, everyone. Kath, if you want to hang on once we're done.
Easy peasy.
I've spell check. Something spell check. I'll have to work that out. Thank you, Brian. Lovely to have you here, and good on you, Kylie. If you've just joined us, just rewind watch the replay. Big cheerio to all the replay viewers. If you made it, if you make it to vote tonight, please do. If you're watching this replay anyway, it doesn't matter. If you miss the vote, jump on Saturday, hear about which tree got the spotlight this year. But all 10 of those species have the spotlight. That's the bottom line. They're really valuable species, and the more we learn about them, the more we can understand the broader biodiversity and ecology of those landscapes where we live. I'll have to get the front half on replay. Yeah, no worries, Carol. It's there. Thanks, Jill and Bronwyn and Linda and Karen, Kylie, Brian, I think I mentioned. So yeah, thanks everyone. It's been great. Yeah. Please, would you be able to come to the Central Coast to look at our community garden in North Gosford? Kylie, not a problem. I'm up on the coast a lot. Just direct message me and we'll sort that out. What time is the announcement on Saturday? What do you reckon? Do you want to do it early?
Well, yes.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll just quickly see what time, because I know that Linda's at a number of events. So before 10 or between 11, before 10 would probably, be great. Otherwise, between 11:30 and 1:30 are the best times, I think. No, that's not true. Before 10 would be great.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, before people go out and about.
Yeah, yep. Because then we can spend the rest of the day talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And know that it is Eucalypt Day, because plenty of people will probably get the notice. So okay. Well, look, I will put forward the time that I think, and
sounds great.
Between you, Linda, and I, we can come up with. But let's say somewhere between 8 and 9:30.
Sounds good to me.
There's a lot happening. Yeah, there sure is.
Depends how early our Western Australian contingent want to get up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, they can get up. It's a big announcement.
That's 3 hours though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've got daylight savings. Does daylight savings end on Sunday? Is that the last
Or
Sunday
maybe.
in March? Yes.
Yeah, maybe. I can't
23. No, it's the following one. Yeah, 30. So there's one more week. So yeah, yeah, because 8 o'clock is 5 a.m.
That is
9 o'clock is 6 a.m. 10 o'clock is 7 a.m. Anyway, we'll work it out, everyone. And but yeah, just keep an eye out. We'll post in advance. You'll see it. We'll post it on Insta and Facebook, and yeah, sometime in that time frame
in the morning.
we'll try and cover off for everyone around the country. If it was only a week later, then it wouldn't be, we could do sort of 9 o'clock, it would be 7 o'clock sort of thing. But yeah, that 3-hour gap is a bit tougher. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone on the replay, and big thanks to those of you who have shared this broadcast so that they can sort of catch up with all that information that Kathy so generously shared with us tonight. So signing off for now, and we will see you on Saturday morning. Catch you then, Kathy.
Catch you then. Thank you, everyone.
See everyone. Linda said, let's do midday. Anyway, we'll work that out. Ciao.
Bye.